So the amount of complex data that is collected and displayed by apps these days has become a lot more commonplace. There are a lot of tutorials that detail how to choose color palettes and branding colors for your websites and interfaces, and I've done one of these as well, which you can check out on our channel. But what about choosing colors for more complex data like maps or diagrams, charts, and other statistical visuals? The process of choosing colors for simple UI patterns can be a bit different for choosing them for more complex UI problems. In this series, I want to explore some of these UI problems and my process for working through them as a product designer. Hi designers, it's Elizabeth from DesignerUp, helping you level up your product design skills. So I've been working on a product recently that allows municipalities to see the states of their city's pipelines. The software helps cities diagnose what pipes need to be maintained or fixed or replaced, and ideally when, which really helps cities save a lot of time, money, and resources. This week, I tackled the problem of which pipes were part of a selection in a city's project. I was tasked with coming up with 5 border colors that could be used to color code each pipe that the user selects. What was tough about this was that I wasn't starting with a nicely balanced color palette that I chose myself from scratch. I was working with a legacy legend and colors that the stakeholders needed to keep because their users were already familiar with them from their existing platform and from other system-dependent software. So while it can be a bit annoying to work with these constraints, this is part of maintaining the integrity of what we call in user experience design a usability heuristic. Specifically, memory recognition and recall, which is about showing the user something they already recognize to make it easier for them to recall, and consistency and standards. This says that users shouldn't have to wonder if different design elements or situations or actions mean the same thing. Part of creating a great user experience is being able to map the conceptual model of our interface to the mental model of our users. So let's jump into the first problem. We can't change the existing color palette. How do we solve this? Well, first, let's just start with what we do have, and that is 5 pretty lame colors. So I'm going to open up Sketch, and I'm working in Sketch version 57.1 right now, and I'm going to create an artboard here, and I'm just going to call this Piper Colors. And now what I want to do is bring in a snapshot of the existing legend that I've gotten from the stakeholders. So I'm just going to paste that here. As you can see, it's not the nicest set of colors, but it's what we have to work with, so it's where we're going to start. Problem number 2, choosing borders that match everything. So here we have the 5 colors. Now, each of these colors needs to have a contrasting border, which means we need 5 more colors, and each of them has to complement every one of the original colors. So when I need to pick colors, I don't like to guess, I like to test. And so what I'm going to do here is create my own little swatches of circles. And I'm going to just mirror the exact colors that we have in the existing legend. So we're just going to create 5 circles right here. And I'm just going to align these. Okay. Just taking my dropper tool, I'm going to grab each one of these. So that we have a representation of what's already existing. So now I want to physically see how each border might look against each color. My way of solving this is to visualize all of the possible permutations. I do this because A, I don't want any surprises if I happen to forget a color and send it over to the developers and they say, hey, a user is mixing this color with that border and it's not matching. And B, I want to test the contrast and have others that don't see exactly like me test them too. Basically, I want to test all of my assumptions. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this row of colors 5 more times because I need 5 different color borders for each of the 5 colors. I'm going to put this into a folder. And then I'm going to duplicate this over until we have 5 columns. So the easiest place for me to start with this color problem is using the process of elimination. So what are the colors that I totally can't use? Well, the most obvious ones are these colors right here, the legend colors. That means I can't really use anything that's red or too close to it, orange, yellow, light blue, or dark blue. Now this leaves me with some safe colors, even though there aren't very many colors left. If we take a look at our color picker, we can see that there are some shades and colors that haven't been used. I'm going to create another section here and call it border colors. And I'm going to create a couple more swatches, 5 to be exact, because we need 5 corresponding borders. And we'll turn those on like so. So let's test out a few roughly. So problem 3, how do we choose the right saturation of color? Let's say we decide to go with green. Should we choose a green that's super fluorescent? Should we choose one that's really dark? How do we know? Well, first, I want to think about the colors that we do have and what their attributes are. All of the colors we have currently are on the warm side, except for the blues, which are cooler, but they're still more highly saturated. They're not fluorescent, and they're not exactly muted. So if I want colors that contrast this, I need to be thinking of the opposite of those attributes. That means I need colder colors, colors that are a bit darker or have higher luminosity. I'm going to eliminate black by default because I want to reserve that color for things that are not attached to user-controlled dynamic content. So I want that to be a system color that only gets displayed when the system has things to show. So if we start with our green, so that's pretty good. It works on red. Let's see if it works on all the other colors. So it looks like this color's looking pretty good on all of the colors except the blue. It's a bit hard to see on the blue. What I want to do is try something with a higher luminosity. So something like that. That looks pretty good. It shows up really well on all of the colors and it contrasts enough that you can see it. So let's say that that is our first border color. All right, just 4 more to go. So one color that also hasn't been used is purple. So let's try a purple that's somewhat equidistant from this green and that contrasts well with all of these 5 colors. You can see that if we go with a deeper saturated color, it's harder to see against this dark blue. But if we increase the luminosity and make it a little bit more fluorescent, you can see it pretty well on all of the colors. It looks like that's a good choice for our second border. All right, 3 more to go. So unfortunately, we've kind of run out of colors that haven't already been used in the legend, but we still have some other shades and saturations to work with. So I think what I want to try now is maybe a blue. So there are a lot of different shades of blue. So maybe something that's a bit teal and has some high luminosity in it. That looks pretty good. It looks like I can see the contrast against all of those colors. So there we have our third border. Again, you can see that these colors are all in the similar level of saturation and luminosity. We're not doing one that's way down here and one that's way over here. They are kind of speaking the same language, and that's exactly what we want. That way, when you're looking at the legend on its own, you can tell that these colors are different. So there is one color that we also haven't used, and that's kind of a brown color. So why don't we try using something that's in this brown family? Maybe something a little bit on the red-brown side. There we go. My eyes are seeing that it's showing up on the red, it's showing up on the yellow, on the blues. Not too bad. So let's go with that for our fourth color. This one's going to be tough. We're almost running out of colors, but if we look through our color picker, we can just kind of move the spectrum handle and see that, okay, these greens show up really well, but is it going to look too similar to the first green that we've used when you're looking at the legend in isolation? And that's our fourth and final problem. These borders also have to be different enough from each other to be differentiated. So it looks like pink actually might work. It is a little close to red, or we can do a much darker green, but that starts to look a bit like black. And I think if we were to have two pipes that have green borders next to each other, this green and that green, it might look pretty close. But that pink shows up pretty well, even against the red. It's not the greatest contrast, but I think it will show up quite well. So why don't we say that that is our fifth and final color. Okay, so now we have 5 separate border colors. Each of these colors complements the existing colors in the legend. We've tested all the permutations, so we know that if there's a pipe that looks like this next to one that looks like this, it will totally work. We've chosen a saturation of color that's not too dark, so it's not going to be confused with other colors. And the colors are of equidistance so that when you see them in a legend all on their own, you won't confuse any one color with the other. It seems like a simple ask. Just choose 5 border colors. But in order to do a really good job of it, you have to have some method for solving it. I started with the things that I knew, and then by process of elimination and experimentation, I figured out the best set of colors that could work for this project. Well, thank you guys for watching me work through that. I hope it was helpful. If you guys have any UI problems that you're struggling with and you'd like me to tackle, leave them in the comments below. Any of those weird edge cases or really complex things that you might need help figuring out, I'd be happy to do a video on it. And let me know what you think of this problem and if you've encountered anything like that before. And if you want to learn how to master all of the hard and soft skills of UI, UX, and product design, come check out our master course at DesignerUp.co.